Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper with your JCN News for this Wednesday, August 7th. Tourism Minister Jcntvnews says he will not be meeting with Compass Point owner Lee Rodney as he has exhausted all of his routes as minister. His comments come after Mr. Rodney expressed to a local daily that he wanted to meet with the government to address his concerns. To that, Minister Jcntvnews says he met with Mr. Rodney a number of times in the past and that now he feels discussions are at an impasse.
He operates a hotel in this country, and he has issues with the licensing process and how it's done, and he has numerous other issues. It's probably better served and requires a level of detail to be better served at the level of the Hotel Licensing Board. That's why we appoint the board.
In Tuesday's edition of the Bahama Journal, Mr. Rodney placed an ad noting that the F&M administration promised they would make it easier for businesses to operate in the Bahamas, but that after 2 years in office, nothing has changed. The ad further noted that if the F&M were to win the next general election and nothing changes, that he would be forced to close up shop and leave the country. Well, to that, the tourism minister asserted that he will not be threatened, adding that that's not the way business is conducted in the Bahamas. When asked if Compass Point pulling out will have an effect on the country's tourism product, Minister Jcntvnews said this.
He got to do what he got to do. If he feels he wants to shut his hotel down because the government hasn't acceded to his demands, then that's what he got to do. I told him that, because he's rich and he can afford to do that, he has to consider also the lives and livelihoods of his 60 Bahamian employees. And he can't just, he can do whatever he wants, but it's inappropriate to come into the Bahamas, build a business, and threaten the government that he's going to close it down if his demands are not acceded. That's not a way to negotiate. I would never ever dream of going into the United States and going to the local officials and saying, look, if you don't change your way, I'm going to pull down my business. They would laugh at me and tell me to go shut it down then.
This weekend's mass shootings in the United States prompting both Venezuela and Uruguay to issue travel advisories to its citizens. But don't expect the Bahamas to follow suit. Foreign Affairs Minister Darren Henfield says he doesn't see the need to put out such an alert. The minister is instead cautioning Bahamians to remain on alert, and that's when traveling anywhere. Just yesterday, opposition leader Philip Davis reasoned that if the decision were up to him, an assessment of the U.S. shootings would be done to understand the root cause.
So yes, they ought to take note of it, and yes, they should issue some statement and or some understanding of what the government's position is, because it's their role to sensitize the Bahamian people as to their safety and what precautions ought to be taken in the event they are going to be away from in areas where their safety could be jeopardized.
U.S. President Donald Trump is to visit the sites of the mass shootings in Ohio and Texas and ended the lives of 31 people. More than 50 were injured. As of July 31st this year, 248 mass shootings have occurred in the U.S., an average of 1.2 shootings per day. In such instances, 979 people were reportedly shot, 246 of whom have died. Negotiations could go either way, but Labor Minister Dion Fowlkes is keeping an open mind that the long-standing headbutting between Morton Salt executives and the company's union will finally end following a scheduled meeting between the two sides on Thursday.
We are very hopeful that we can bring some resolution to the outstanding issues at Morton Salt. Both of them revolve around economic issues in the contract. As you know, Morton Salt is the largest employer next to the government, Adinagua. So we see it as a top priority for the government to get that settled for the sake of all of the residents and the viability of Inagua in terms of full employment. So we're very hopeful come Thursday that we will be able to make some progress, if not resolve all of the issues that weren't solved.
In the meantime, the company has agreed to hold off on a threat to have a lockout at the Inagua salt plant and the union to hold off on its industrial action. The two sides are at odds over the contents of a new industrial agreement. Chief negotiator for the union is labor attorney and trade union Congress leader Opie Ferguson. For Morton, it's General Manager Scott Nixon. Environmentalists not letting up in their fight to protect Lighthouse Point in Saudi Luthra from Disney Cruise Line's $400 million development plan. In a statement today, the environmental group said that DCL's June 12th letter was a dismissive response to the detailed letter sent by the groups on the inadequacy of Disney's environmental review. In that letter, Disney reiterated that they will only move forward with the development if it could do so in an environmentally responsible manner. Today, environmentalists are saying that Disney still hasn't replied to the specific questions in the Stop Disney Last Chance campaign petition. The statement says DCL continues to downplay the impact of this massive project, the centerpiece of which is a $250 million 0.6-mile-long pier that would cut across Coral Reef and would be used to transport up to 20,000 passengers a week to its exclusive facilities. In just 3 weeks, the campaign gathered more than 40,000 supporters and continues to climb. Meantime, the tourism minister maintains that this project will go on.
First of all, this is to do with the Bahamas. So how many of them are Bahamian? How many of them are citizens of this country? And so that is, and secondly, and what is the opinion of the people on the ground in South Luthra, most importantly? I don't focus on how many people sign a petition. This is not this, many of them, I'm sure, don't even live in the Bahamas. And while everybody's concerned about the environment, and trust me, we are concerned about the environment too.
The government feels comfortable, he said, that Disney will do everything in their power to ensure that the environment is protected. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.